I ended up placing somewhere in the top 16. Sadly, I was rather robbed out of a top 8 spot. We played timed matches for Top Cut for the first time ever, and with an overwhelming advantage, 99.999% of the time winning, my opponent was declared the winner. It's all good. Next time. It's not his fault, but we'll move on. We'll play the deck again and it will be good fun. Sure. So I started up going 3-0 to begin the day, which involved playing... my first matchup was a fairly simple one. Like, I didn't really have any real difficulties, although for the life of me right now I cannot remember who I ended up playing against or what it was playing against. I remember round 3 was against... sorry, not round 3. Round 4 was against Broly. Broly BR Green from the starter deck. And that was a really, really good close match because... but I'm definitely favoured in that matchup. In Game 2, I didn't see one of my main pieces, which meant that I couldn't actually clear his board, and as a result, that one ended up losing. As a result, we tied on that, so I had a draw in round 4. And round 5, I had basically an auto loss. I lost the dice roll against U6, and as a result, I was basically dead on turn 2. So there wasn't much I could do about that. But after that, I won every other matchup, finishing my last rounds of Swiss against against the Zamasu deck, which did not like playing against me much at all. Top 16 was against Toa, and I believe the deck is heavily favoured against Toa. I think Toa just loses, especially if they go second, then they just have no chance whatsoever. Well, the deck in general, before I get into it completely, is first and foremost, it's a control deck. So we are, if you make one wrong defensive play, you can lose very, very easily. You have to play this more or less perfectly on defense, especially when you're playing against an aggressive matchup. We are playing the boy Hiru Decklist. We've got the double-sided. Hiru Decklist is awesome because every time he swings at a leader card, you can discard one of your battle cards, and that has great filter, and then draw 2 cards. It helps you find your pieces, and it's great synergy with the rest of the deck. There are many times in this deck where I actually stay on this side for the vast majority of the game, even through turns 5, 6, and sometimes as far as even turn 7. I've remained unawakened, drawn through most of my deck, and only when I'm ready to awaken will we go. It depends on the matchup, of course. If we're need to play hand control, for example, against Janemba, I'll try and awaken as soon as possible and try and get the hand down. But against other decks, slower decks, for example, like sometimes against Pan or against Freezer Prison or something, you can stay here no problem whatsoever. But the leader is amazing, so don't underestimate him. Big leader. Getting into the deck, mandatory start, we've got our 4 super combos. And I'm saying this is the best super combo in the game. Better than Paragus, better than Hellies, better than Android 16, better than every other super combo. And the reason is because after you discard, you've got a target off that. And that target is the next card, which is Minosha. And we run 4 copies of Minosha. Minosha is amazing because it turns your super combo not into a +1 filter, but into a +2 filter. So it means that your leader swing can be +2, your super combos can be +2, and as Minosha searches for your extremely awesome, sexy pair of legs, which we've got at 4, as we've got our 4 pair of legs, and this is our main draw package. It gives us combo power, it gives us energy. This card is, the Hiru Decklist the Wanderer is usually used as either energy, extra combo power, discard fodder, or whatever else I may need it for. I did one game, I did actually play it hard, cast it and swing for game, but it's mostly just there for the other purposes. Minosha is my MVP of the deck. Okay, getting into the rest of the engine. We run 4 Tapion. Tapion is amazing. What I really like about this is how inbuilt into the engine is a Self-Awakener. This is good for against Janemba. In fact, this is the best card against Janemba. If you see this in your opening hand, you keep one of them. You only need one in your drop, and you can get it there after playing it. For example, people will say you draw so much cards, you lose against Janemba. No, you don't. You swing with your leader, you discard 1, you draw 2. If you discard a Minosha, just don't grab the legs. It's fine. You make sure that after they swing at you twice, you play this card, you awaken, and then you can start swinging with your leader and negging their hand immediately. You're hand control, so it's fine. The Self-Awakening and removal. The reason why we play the deck. These are Hiru Decklist, Premonition of Evil. It is a free blocker. for when you have a Tapion and a Minosha in play. People think that you only play this on the turn that you evolve up. They are wrong. You play this as long as you have a Tapion and a Minosha in play. You would not believe how many times I'm against an aggressive matchup, and on turn 2 I've got Minosha and Tapion in play, and I simply dropped one of these on the board for free and say, hey, I've got a free blocker, come and get me. It's absolutely amazing, and in a pinch, it can also have another use, which I did actually use in one of the matches throughout the day, where I was able to, right at the end of the game, swing a whole bunch of times, and they reckon I was tapped out, and I dropped one of these on the board for free and swung for game. And that was able to be used for that because I still have Minosha and Tapion in the drop. Keep in mind though that when you do try and swing with it on your turn, or when it's on your turn, it's negged by 10, so it starts at 10k. Still, a free card to swing with is never bad. Continuing on, Colossal Malice Hiru. He is phenomenal. We only run 3 because he gets cloggy if we run too many, and the deck filters so much that you will find him. And if you don't, then you're just unlucky. I think there might have been, out of all of the matches, maybe 1 or 2 games where I couldn't find him. And one of those was on stream against Broly, but otherwise you do find him. You evolve him either on turn 4 or 5 on top of this guy. And when you play him, you can top deck one of their battle cards, and you randomly top deck one card in their hand. The randomness is amazing because you often can rip out pieces that they actually want. It's obviously random, so you don't get to pick that, but it's amazing considering. It also, on your turn, acts as a negate, and by pitching one card from the warp, you can send him away, he can come back and negate the attack. Having an extra negate every turn is amazing because it makes you much, much harder to kill. Plus, he's got barrier, so he's harder to remove, and if they do have a way to remove him, for example, like Toa wants to remove barrier, they swing, you just move him, and then they can't remove him anyway, because he'll come back at the start of the next turn. He'll recur his advantage every single time, he'll constantly remove cards, and remove cards from their hand. He is awesome. The whole bread and butter of the deck. My personal favourite card, I've got my own mats coming, Phantom Flame Cannon. Phantom Flame Cannon is the best card this leader could have ever seen. I only run the 3 because I don't have the room for more of them. I do have another one if I wanted to put in, but not for this deck. Phantom Flame Cannon is amazing. Defensively, comboing over an attack and then making your opponent lose more cards out of their hand is amazing. For example, in testing, I had someone combo everything into a final attack, leaving themselves with 2 cards. That was against Red Gogeta BR. They wanted to evolve and ping me for 2 life at the end. So I went, okay, cool. Double Phantom Flame Cannon, take the damage, down to 2. They've got no cards in hand, and they have to pass turn. Alternatively, during the event, I was against Zamasu. I was able to get them down to 4 cards in hand. I swung with my leader. They had 2 life. They top decked one from my leader. I triple Phantom Flame Cannon, gave them no life, and as you can imagine, I dropped Champa, which we'll have a look at later in the deck, and that was instant game over. Phantom Flame Cannon is amazing. Getting into how the deck runs. We need our 4 Beerus. This is a multicolored deck. 4 Beerus is necessary because you need to see him on turn 1 and 2. If you have another multicolor to charge, you can, but otherwise he is your charge most of the time. This or legs is your charge. You really do it for nothing else. At least once per the day, you can actually play it if you want to draw a card and have a 15k beat swing. That is still a good play. 15k to draw a card and get a beater out of it is not bad value, so always keep that in mind when you're actually playing the deck. Bojack. I love this card. Bojack is being able to rest something when it comes out for a rival for 1 yellow, and being able to rest something and then act as a blocker means you can essentially stop 2 attacks with this. And being able to stop 2 attacks, plus also on your turn, use it aggressively to have a 20k beater, is amazing. Also, there's a great interaction between my leader and Phantom Flame Cannon, and this, where I might swing with my leader, and they will put something on top of their deck with the idea that they're going to get it back, and I'll immediately arrival this into play and mill the card that they wanted to get back. It's hilarious. It can happen once or twice, that you have to be careful when you play against this, because if you put something you actually want there, you might not get it back. 2 Deadly Poison. Deadly Poison is the best at stopping big players. If your opponent wants to do something big to kill you, you just negate it and it comes out in rest mode. This is a control deck, so this is by far the most powerful card in the deck. The only reason that I don't run more of it in the main is because it's an extra card and our leader card can only discard battle cards. So if you have too many of them, it becomes cloggy. But it's amazing, especially when you get low on life and it be able to untap an energy as well. This card is MVP, it's amazing. It's crushable and Bloodlust in 1 card, plus it replaces itself, plus it can untap an energy at the end, and it gets around everything except to deflect, so it's phenomenal. Continuing on, the defensive package, we have our 4 Dimension Magics. Dimension Magic has a sole purpose in this deck. On turn 4 and turn 5, if we want to tap out, and our leader either does not want to awaken or is not ready to awaken, this is our Sparking Negate that can untap our energy and turn on everything else again. You don't want to use this willy-nilly. It is very much for those players when you want to play it big and you want to untap. The deck has an enormous amount of combo power, and if someone tries to just purely push you in through combo, they will lose the combo war, so save your negates for when you need them. Dimension Magic, nothing else need to be said. I run 4 of them. 2, You're Wide Open. You're Wide Open is great because it can knock back things with Barrier, or it can prevent things getting their autos off. And this is great against Chain Attack Trunks because we don't really want them to play Zeno. It's great against when they tap 4 to play some of the Veggie matchups. It's good against basically everything. Just because it knocks it back to their hand, people say this card is bad. This deck doesn't care how many cards they have in their hand because it has more cards than hand in them anyway. So knocking them back to hand and preventing them from getting their tempo off is good. It's not obviously useful for every matchup, and it can easily be sided out as well. 2, Gohan. Gohan is amazing against the Veggie matchup. For those who are not sure why, the Veggie matchup going second is extremely difficult, but going first, on your second turn, you're going to have 2 energy open, preferably with a multicolored in there. If you've got a multicolored energy in there and you're ready, whenever they try and combo their Caulifla into play and they want to rest one of your energy, you tap 2, you play your Gohan on the board, they choose an energy, all your energy is tapped, they can't choose it, then your Gohan auto-procs and you can knock one of their cards back, and then your Gohan untaps an energy. So you actually end up with net energy, combo play, plus a body on board. Obviously, Gohan allows autos to proc off, but he does act as an extra beater. So you sit back, you don't actually use any energy. This is play on your turn only, or on your opponent's turn only. The best counterplay card, Champa. Champa costs us 2 in this deck, as we've got these multicolored cards. He hits through anything. Barrier does not affect him. He's a beater. He replaces himself, and he doesn't actually care what you're doing. He's going to stop you. If you're playing an SCR, he'll stop you. If you're playing your final threat, he'll stop you. If you're playing dual attack, triple attack, I don't care. He's going to rest you and stop you from doing what you want. Being a yellow card gives him multiple purposes. He can be comboed off to help set up a rival. He can be used as a beater. This is phenomenal. I am so glad I upped this to 4. My original build had 3, but he's been amazing, and very, very rarely did I not want to see him. So whenever I saw him in my hand, I was always feeling safe. And finally, you might say, like, the win con of the deck, how am I actually going to end the game? Well, we've got 3 good ways of ending the game. We're playing a card advantage war, but certain decks are going to try and destroy our hand. One of them is Toa, another one may be Slug, and anything else that wants to remove us. So our win con number 1 is the SCR. Do not let people tell you that this card is bad. This card is amazing. Draw 4 in a deck where you're going to find everything and being able to rest all of your opponent's cards and potentially swing for game. Even if this card does not swing for game in this, the draw 4 is worth it. Because you will use Dimension Magic to untap. You will use your leader to untap. You will have energy at the end of this. And drawing 4, if you're against Toa and you're at 4 cards in hand, suddenly you've got 7 cards in hand. Their next mirror does not hurt you, does not kill you. Your swing is potentially for game. Your ability to tap them out can also kill them as well. This card won me at least 5 games throughout Swiss rounds, and was on my board in my final top 16 match, as we specified earlier. This one was absolutely killing it throughout the day. Another awesome card, Banish of Fu. Banish of Fu is so nasty in this deck, especially against Janemba. The point is that you're negging their hand with your leader swing, you're negging their hand with Flame Cannon, you're negging their hand because they're losing out on tempo every turn, and when they're finally saying, hey, my hand's getting low, but you don't have anything on board, he's going to attack 3 times. Triple attack, and every time they try and stop him, every time they try and activate a super combo, they're going to walk more cards out of hand, so they're going to lose hand advantage. Keep in mind that when you put this on the board, you've normally already got the 9-drop Hirudegan in play, and you've normally got a couple of either Champas or Gohans in play too, so you can potentially swing 5-6 times in a turn, and them not being able to combo out of those hurts them enormously. If they negate, they lose cards, and they can go from 3, 4, 5 cards in hand down to nothing in the one turn. This wins games. Use it. It's good. And finally, the one-off Champa. Champa wins games, as I mentioned earlier. It's obviously going to win if they get down to 2. You have an enormous amount of hand advantage. I would not ever run any less than 1 if you don't run it, especially, like, it's just mandatory. Now, it's interesting now. I do run Champa over Isekai because it's comboable against the red SCR. The red SCR prevents us from comboing 2 drops. This is a 3 drop, so therefore I'm able to combo with it. Forget the fact that you don't have to worry about declaring, because I'm going to happen to remember to declare double strike. That's not an issue. Champa is better simply on the basis that I'm never going to play him, so I don't actually care that he's got 2 specified red, but the fact that he gets over that for combo purposes makes him better than Isekai for this deck. If we're getting into the sideboard, this deck has 2 difficult matchups, and those would be Shenron Gogeta if they are able to get their ramp up. So in game 1 you have to be really, really careful, because if they are able to drop a Gogeta on the board and rip away your hand advantage and then follow it up with like a Kaioken, that's going to be very difficult. So to deal with that matchup, I've got 4 Force Ejection Master Saiyan. This lets me force them to play at my tempo. I can destroy their energy. I can overwhelm this on turn 2 because my leader will discard a card every time it swings, and I can combo 1 extra card, so I can put this on the board. And on turn 3, I can hard cast this again, so it stays on the board. Every time they try an objection, every time they try and you put a Reese on the board, I'm going to destroy their energy. And what's great is that when they charge their energy, for anyone who's noticed, they normally charge 1 blue, 1 yellow, maybe 1 or 2 more, and then they're usually charging the rest of them are black cards because they're trying to filter out their hand. If you kill all of their coloured energy, they can't play cards, so they just lose to this card. I'm not actually sure whether I'm going to keep it at 4. I might drop it down to 3. I didn't actually end up playing Shenron, but it was necessary because it's an auto-lose without it. But I'm glad I had it there just in case. The second Champa. The second Champa comes in for any deck like Janemba, which I have to rely on not necessarily seeing the 1. If that 1 gets milled, I need another 1 to be able to close out a game. And if playing against an aggressive deck where they're going to drop them down to 2, I need more likelihood of seeing this card so that I can randomly push in for game at the right moment. The extra deadly poison. This comes in extremely handy against control decks such as Freezer Prison, because when they try and put out a Barbary or the Chain Attack Trunks, you just completely negate its skills and they get absolutely nothing out of their turn. Obviously, it's got innumerable other uses, as we mentioned in the rest, because it's the 3rd copy. For the Veggie matchup, we've got 2 Nimbus. Nimbus is just to keep us alive and maximize our potential card advantage so that we can survive the second turn and get into our turn 3. Once we've got turn 3, we'll have enough energy to be able to recur our energy with our Gohans, our Dimension Magics, and prevent their plays with other control means. We only really need to see 1. The only reason I run 2 is because it's of deck space, but having so many negates is also great, because we have to consider we'll have 2 Nimbus, we'll have the 4 Dimension Magic, and we'll have potential free blockers in play. So we can have Bojacks in play and the Rudigards in play. So that's good against that matchup. Also for Freezer Prison. Against Freezer Prison, it can get extremely stally. So you can have virtually no cards in play, and it just becomes a stall war. But you can break the stall with Fru Shrouded. It completely turns off all their abilities. They can't activate any of their negates, and because their hand is full of extra cards, it turns off their ability to play anything and basically leaves them with no combo power whatsoever. So when you end up dropping this in that matchup, it's an auto win instantly, because they'll be lower on life. Your leader has been swinging normally several times by then and negging their hand a little bit, but we're going to have an absolutely phenomenal easy win against Freezer Prison. Also, it has other matchups against all games, and I played it once during the event. It won me the match against Red Green Pan. All Too Easy is just for the Red Green Goku matchups, where they want to put out a big guy with Deflect that wants to rip away my hand and then negate, so I've still got an extra negate. 2 more Gohans. Gohan comes in against the Veggie matchup, Gohan comes in against the other decks where I just want to be efficient with my energy. Tumafuba, this is for the Toa matchup. It prevents your opponent from wanting to swing in with their 5-drop, as they will, because they're going to have so much of a hard time putting in pressure that they won't actually be able to kill you. Therefore, when they do swing with their 5-drop, they regret it because it's immediately under Mafuba. That actually happened in my top 16 matchup, as I could specify at a later date. And the final card is the last cop, is 1 Impenetrable Defense Rudigan. Now, I never actually got to play it. It was only there for the Toa matchup, because the one thing that can lose that matchup is when they can swing multiple times. And if you end up running out of negates for whatever reason, the reason I play this card is it gives me a way to board a second 9-drop. And if I get 2 9-drops on the board, then I'm going to negate 2 attacks every turn. I may come out, but otherwise I'm glad I had it there. That's the deck in the nutshell. So play Hiru Decklist, it's awesome. Thanks guys.